Alrighty, so we're gonna start working on this big 3D printed apocalypse today. It's mostly gonna be just sanding today, so a lot of fun, exciting stuff. Sanding, but this guy's big. He stands about 32 inches tall to the top of the head. There are different versions of this. I actually have a second one coming for another client with a smaller base. This is the big base, which I really like. It's cool. It's got a cool kind of like I don't know what you want to call it, like a not a throne, but can't think of the word. Anyway, it's really cool. Got some skeletons around it. It's got some of these little urns with flames in them that go around the sides, which will get magnetized. This print is done by Bond Norton again. I get a lot of stuff lots of clients send stuff to me that he's printed. And from my initial kind of looking this over, the print's very good. As usual, Bond's prints are, for the most part, really, really good. You know, you can't, sometimes things shrink and contract while, that's nothing to do with the printer, it's just to do with the resin. So there is some gap filling to do eventually, but like on the base, this very bottom part is actually in 3 layers. This bottom part is 6 pieces. So these will have to get glued together, and all these gaps will have to get filled and kind of puttied and sculpted. And then there's like another layer right here, and then the third layer up here. And some of these prints are really big, so I'd be curious to know how much resin was used in printing this piece, because there's a lot of resin here. And then also on the base, there's a couple pedestals that come along the side here. Now there's some very fragile bones right here, skeleton. So I gotta be careful of that. Let's see how this goes. But these will come into here like that. And then these come up on the sides like this, and they are side specific. So just a really cool altar. That's the word, altar. I couldn't think of the word. It's like a cool altar. And this will come into here. And this will come into here like that. So that's the base. Oh, and there also is this really cool, I just kind of looked at it yesterday, but it's really cool relief. There's like some horses and some soldiers. So I made like bronze of this. Oh no, this is way more than 2 bottles. This is 4 or 5 at the bare minimum bottles of resin for this guy. There's a ton of resin here. I would, if I had to guess, it's probably between 6 and 8 bottles of resin for this guy. It's a lot of resin. It's big. So this relief will get put on there. Maybe bronze that. Let's see what else. I can't put him together anymore because it's just the way it is. I can't. There's nothing. There's as much as I can put together. I can't put the arms on. I can't put any other stuff on. He does have one switch out, and it's the left arm. So one, you can do this big long screw weapon, which is really cool, or you can just do a fist. So I'll have to add some magnets, and also while I'm building, I have to plan for shipping, because this has to ship. So for the most part, it looks like everything fits pretty well. As with any 3D printing, there's going to be gap filling and fitment things you got to deal with. So I'll deal with that as I go along. Yeah, just a really cool piece. Like the foot right now, this foot right here has got a really, really tight fit into this key. So I'm going to go in there and do some kind of carving and stuff just so it's easy to put in and take out. I'll have to make the arms removable for shipping. So we'll see how I go about doing that. But today is really just sanding, cleaning up support marks and stuff like that. So like for the for his right arm, I would love to be able to I'd like to be able to just glue them together. I might be able to just glue them together. I'm going to glue them together as much as possible. And maybe what I can do is just have just this one switch out. Because this comes down like that. There's a lot of weight on this screw thing. So, but since it's kind of facing down, I might be able just to put a really big magnet, a couple magnets in there to hold that into place. That might be enough. And then same with this hand. This hand will be a magnet will hold that no problem. It's not very heavy. I think would have been really nice. I may reach out to Bond. I think actually a better option for this is if I had a second left shoulder and glue this together, and I can magnetize. I can put some 1/2 inch magnets here and here, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach out to Bond and ask him, hey, whatever it costs to send me a second left shoulder, send that to me. Because I think that's better for the switch out option than trying to switch it out here. And that's just has to do with physics and that kind of thing. I could print it myself, but I don't have the file. And I know he did this quarter scale, so I'm just going to reach out to him and ask him to do that for me. Print me another left shoulder. That way I can put a 1/2 inch magnet here and a 1/2 inch magnet there. And that's going to be plenty enough holding power to keep that in place. There will be a little bit of a seam right here, but yeah, I don't know. Well, now I'm thinking that maybe I don't want to do that. So this is me thinking out loud and trying to plan. Let's see what the shoulder pad, how much does the shoulder pad cover up? The shoulder actually covers quite a bit of that. So I do that. How much of a seam do we see? You know what? I think if I do that, oh yeah, okay. Let's take this out before I drop something. So this is part of building these guys. It's just planning, planning a plan of attack. So let's see. So I'm thinking. If can I zoom in and zoom out? I can. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out since he's so big. So if this is magnetized there, this can just sit in here. Really, it keys in really nice once that's in there. So I don't even think I need a magnet. Is that the right side? These are our side-specific shoulder pads. Let's make sure this is the right side. Okay, that is the correct shoulder pad. Yeah, because in order for this to work, you got to, hold on, is this going to work if I do that? Will it snap in? Yes, it will. Okay, there'll be a little paint rubbing. I can make that work. Because once the shoulder pad's in, you really don't see it. There might be a little seam back here, but I'm okay with that. I think I need that. That's more important as far as stability of this switch out. So yeah, I'm going to reach out to Bond and ask him to get me another left shoulder. And if it costs me a couple bucks, it costs me a couple bucks. No big deal. But I think that's a better idea for the switch out because I can add 2 1/2 inch magnets here, which would give me a lot of holding power. In that way, because when you're doing magnets, you have to think of the physics of it. So if this guy's here and it's like hanging way out here, that's a lot of downward force right here, and there's not a lot of room for if I just put a 1/2 inch magnet there and there, that's not going to be enough to hold that in place. I don't think. So I think the physics of it, where the fix with that weight, it's wanting to pull straight down, and I got 2 magnets, and I got 2 magnets here and there. That's a lot of holding power 1/2 inch magnets. Those are very strong. So I think that's what I want to do. Okay, so there's that. So let's put that to side. Anyway, let's look at the sculpt a little bit. So here's the upper torso, chest, really cool details. Wicked kill. This is from Wicked. I posted for all the people who asked for the STL on my Facebook page. I posted it where you can get the file. I will always post the link to the file if it's available. There's the torso. Here's the head sculpt. The head looks a little small to me, just by paint, because I painted those other Apocalypse, but it's a different style of sculpt. But again, Bond's printing is really good. I love his support settings. They leave kind of minimal damage. So, and then here's his left hand with the skull. Great mechanical details throughout. Nice piping and stuff. So we're going to do this guy up. I have to get some color references for my client. So it's for Tony. And then I showed you this guy. Yeah, it's available. Good. I put a link. Yeah, just really great sculpt. Man, Wicked does some really nice stuff. Some of their stuff I'm not too keen on, but this is really, really sharp. Here's the switch out hand. There's some putty in here from when Bond kind of had it put together with some blue tack or poster putty. Just to kind of, he posted a photo of this on his page before he shipped it. And I am, like I said, I'm getting a second one of these. It's just got a smaller base. I'm not sure if it's just like the top of the base or if it's completely different. Oh, excuse me. And then the shoulder pads. But I'm not seeing any layer lines in these pieces, which is nice. There's no layer shift that I can see. So that's always good, because then I have to deal with that. It's just a matter of cleaning up supports. And then we have all this piping and stuff that we'll have to add pins. But again, support marks are fairly minimal. Those look good. There's an A here. I'm not sure where this A goes, to be honest. Probably on his, I don't know. I don't know where it goes. He's got a little loincloth that goes in front. I have to look where the A goes. It looks like it goes on his body somewhere. A for Apocalypse. Let's see. And then, like I said, we got these cool, and these are pretty delicate parts. These little rings on these urns printed just fine. So I have to make sure to protect those so those don't break. These will all get magnetized. I've got some holes I'll have to fill. Another thing when you're dealing with 3D prints, and I found this out the hard way on something I worked on, is because I like to wash all the parts when I'm done. And if I do that, I have to plug any holes in the parts where there might get water. You do not want to get water in your 3D print unless you can get it completely dried out, because you don't want moisture in this, because the resin will absorb it. So a lot of times I go through, it's time consuming, but I will fill all these holes with putty just so I can wash the parts really, really well after sanding and all that stuff, because it's a messy process and you don't want to get water. You don't want to get water in these parts, man. You'll have, you will be hurting later. And also, just for installing magnets, I sometimes have to just put a lot of putty in there and just build up some. He purchased really thick walls. They look like 3mm walls. So they're really sturdy. Like, these parts are sturdy, but I want some more thickness for the magnet to adhere to. So sometimes I'll just pack this in with either body filler or 2-part epoxy. Let that dry. Oh, I've got some meat for the magnet to stick to. Here's the waist. Cool little spots where the hoses plug into. Again, his supports are really, really good. I've been picking Bond's brains for. I don't do a ton of printing. I do mostly printing for like kit producers who need something molded and casted. His support settings are really good, and he's printing these on the Mega AK like what I have. So he's got it dialed in, man. And his legs, nothing too exciting there. And then his boots are really cool. Lots of great details in these. Again, I'm not seeing any layer shifts, layer lines. Maybe if I'm like really, really scrutinizing, maybe a little bit. I mean, it's like super, like it's not just sticking out as far as any imperfections in the printing. It looks really good. Where you can see it is if you look on the bottom of these pieces, you'll see layer lines, but that's all on any flat piece. Yeah, so today is just going to be a day of sanding. You know, the nature of the beast. Lots of sanding, but these parts look really good. So like I said, like the one part where I have the it's not really a fitment issue. It's just really, really tight. Is this boot right here? Let me take all this stuff off so it doesn't fly off and break. So it's really, really tight. So I've got to look around. Basically, all I can do is, well, you can see where it's rubbing a lot. So I can go sand the boot, or I can sand the base. It looks like he already did a little bit here on the print when he first printed it. It looks like he was carving it out a little bit to get the fit. So I'll do some more just so it's a really good. So it doesn't. So it's not so hard to put in it, because that's gonna that paint is just gonna rub completely off. If it's that, I mean, it's nice that it's that tight because it's a nice solid fit and he's not gonna fall. But that's gonna rub paint like crazy. So, yeah, I might have to carve this out so it's easier to take off the base, but then fill this in and put a pin in or something. So it's got so we'll see. I don't have to. But this is just a few times taking this on and off. And actually, I don't care if the bottom of this boot gets messed. Like I could go and just cart this boot out a little bit because you don't see it's buried in all this rock and stuff. So maybe I just do this a few times and it'll kind of, just by doing this a few times, just kind of wearing it down enough to where it's easier to take on and off. So sometimes when I'm working on stuff like this, I have to tell clients like, hey, look, when you put this in, it's gonna rub paint, but once it's on the wherever if it's wherever it is in the end, you don't see it. So I'd rather have it nice tight fit and rub a little bit of paint than have it loosey goosey and have him wobbly on the base because he's really tall. And again, with 3D printing, I ran into this with the Bishop print. They sculpt it to look really cool, which is great, but then in the end, especially when you're scaling the stuff up to 1/4 scale, the engineer, the physics come into play where it's really top heavy. And Bishop's the way his feet were and the way he was leaning, was really top heavy. So I had to rekey his feet so it actually had a tight fit. And I told my clients, like, look, you're gonna rub paint on his feet, but I had to make it a tight fit so he wouldn't fall over. So that's just what you gotta do sometimes. But this is actually just doing this is making it easier to take on and off the base. And then this is how the base comes apart. So we got this top part. Look at this print. Look at this piece. This thing is just massive. How big this piece is. This is crazy. All one piece. This is like 4 or 5 millimeter. These walls are thick on this guy, which I like because my one gripe with base prints is that the bottoms are too thin and they warp and they bend and they flex and everything. So I have to go in there and like film with Bondo and get them all smooth. And even then, they're to the point where they want to flex. But this is super, super thick. I don't have to do any. I mean, it's great. It's awesome. I think I will. I don't think I need to plug those holes, but we'll see. Again, just for the sake of washing parts, I like to plug the holes so I don't get moisture inside the print. That's the one thing about 3D prints is you cannot introduce any moisture inside. I don't need, no, I'm not, no. This thing weighs a ton already. There's no reason to fill it with resin once I show you the bottom. And then this part's nice and thick too. Again, these look like 5 or 6 millimeter thick walls. Super, super sturdy. And then here's the very bottom of the base. 6 pieces, go together like a puzzle. It's too bad that my only suggestion it would be like if Wicked offered, because you could actually print this base, this part, you could print this all in one piece on the Mega AK. It would fit. That's my only suggestion. But the nice thing about having those smaller pieces, to your point about filling with resin, is that you have more structural integrity when they're smaller pieces because you have all these walls around the edges just giving more support. Like there's a little bit of flex here on the bottom and not much. So if I was to fill anything with resin, it would be this very bottom part, just to simply kind of lock this all together a little bit better. So I actually thought about that when I first took this out of the box I don't know, last week, just to look at it, make sure everything arrived safely. But what I may do is once I get this, I may there are some holes already here on the side here. But what I may do is make these holes a little bit bigger. And what I'll do is I'll glue these 2 pieces together and do a slush casting. So fill this with resin and just kind of slosh it around just to kind of help lock these 2 pieces in place. That's what I did on the He-Man base the second time. I would put 2 pieces together, I'd pour resin in there, I would just slosh it around, just kind of help lock it together because that base kind of disintegrated shipping the first time. So yeah. Yeah, are you guys getting sound? I think everyone else, I think Tyrell is. So I'm not sure. If you can hear me, let me know. So yeah, so maybe I'll fill these with resin. I think I've got enough to do that here. So these parts, I'm gonna do a little sanding and fitting, but that may be a good idea. Just for this bottom part, it'd be heavy, but it would just help kind of lock this all together, make it more solid. So that's a good suggestion. Okay, so that's kind of how it goes together. So now we're gonna sand. Lots of fun. So I'm gonna throw some music on in the background. YouTube will probably flag it if it hears it. So I'm gonna just play some Alexa, play Pandora Gunship.
Gunship Radio from Pandora.
And if it's not too loud through the video, it shouldn't get flagged. But I need something in the background playing. Alexa, volume down. So just, I'm gonna sand for a long time. So if you have any questions or anything, let me know. Otherwise, there's just gonna be a lot of this. I had some. Let's get this little sanding stick. So when I'm sanding, I'm using a lot of 240. It's kind of like my go-to initial sanding grit. But when I'm doing stuff like the bottom of these bases and stuff, I'll go up to 120 or 80 grit where you're not going to see it. That'll be kind of like my. So this is some 120, and I'm just going to put it on a popsicle stick so I have a relatively flat surface. Alexa, volume down. So I buy this sandpaper, buy the roll off Amazon, and it lasts me a long time. The 600 grit roll I bought like 4 years ago, and I barely used it. I go through 240 and 120 pretty quick. Yeah, so this is just my ghetto Polish sanding stick. So a very messy part of the process is this. I actually have sanding block. I've thought about turning my workbench into a sanding table, cutting out a center section and having it hooked up to a vacuum cleaner. So when I sand all this stuff, I just be noisy. I have the vacuum cleaner on all the time. So this, when I'm doing stuff like this, I'm not really worried about getting rid of all the support marks. You don't see it. I just want a flat surface for gluing. So I do that sand a little bit, and I check the fit. And that closes up that gap a little bit. So, excuse me. So when you're 3D printing, anywhere you have supports, you're going to have a little inconsistency on that edge. So like this, I can see that this portion right here kind of curves in a little bit. So there's going to be a little bit. That's where the biggest part of the gap is going to be right there. It's not that bad. It's like a 1/16 of an inch. If I really pushing it, it'll stay. So I might actually glue some of this. I may be able to get this bottom part glued together. That'd be great. So, like I said, I might drill some of these holes bigger so I can do a slush casting on these pieces. It's a slow process because the resin I have is a slow cure. So it, which is good for that kind of process. You don't want a fast cure resin. So my client Tony was asking if I would record this for him, and I said, of course I would. He's been a really good client of mine. So Tony wants a recording, he gets a recording. A lot of guys don't care. Yeah, so they sell like all the Japanese like Gundam Gunpla builders. They sell. You can buy stands standing stick kits. It's basically a big piece of flat whatever with a little handle on it. I'll 3D print them because yeah, those things, they charge you a lot, and it's simply just a piece of plastic that you stick sandpaper to. So yeah, I'll just print them in. If you can print them in PLA, like if you have a, that'd be better. That'd be more stable. To be honest, you could do them in resin, but I think resin would flex a little bit. Okay, so that's a pretty damn good fit right there. Try to sand this down a little bit here. I actually, downstairs in my garage, I have some sanding blocks I use for auto body work. They're ones like this long. I've got one that's like 14 inches long. But yeah, you don't need to buy those expensive sanding sticks. You just make them. And don't buy the sandpaper for them because they charge you a lot for the sandpaper. Go on Amazon and get this stuff. This brand name is called what is this? Dura. This brand of sandpaper is called Duragold. I bought these rolls of sandpaper, and a roll, depending on the grit, is like 200 to 300 feet long. And if you cut these up into little sections for those sanding blocks, it'll last you for years. And it's like 50, 60 bucks for this roll. If you buy those pre-cut things, you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to go through a lot of sandpaper. So that's why I buy it by the roll. And this is designed for automotive, so it sands very well. And not all sandpaper is the same, depending on what it's designed for. So like stuff for automotive industry, it self-cleans really well as you're sanding. It's just like in the way it's designed. It does make a difference. Okay, so I think that's as close as that's going to get for those two pieces. So I think I am going to go ahead and, since I'm here, and I like the idea of filling those bombs with resin, I want to drill some bigger holes. Now, hopefully this doesn't crack out, because drilling hollow resin, sometimes it likes to crack out. So let's see if I just go slowly. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is because I want to glue these together, and then I want to pour some castable resin in here. I want to do a slush casting. I want to be able to move it around and do that. So I want the resin to flow between these two pieces, ideally. That's my thought process. That'll just help lock this all together. Maybe a little overkill, but okay. So now, oh, this was actually lined up. I just eyeballed it and they line up. What I do like on this particular print is bond it and put any holes in the bottom of the base. Because when he does that, I've got to go through and I actually have to fill all those holes. It's a time-consuming process. So what I do is I take like pieces of plot plate, which is basically styrene, and I stick it in there and I glue it in and I fill it with Bondo. It just adds another step to the process. The fact that he didn't do that is really helpful. So now I think I could probably glue this together. I'm gonna be right back. I want to get one thing. That wasn't my spray booth. Actually, I'm gonna take a second here to get organized. I want to get some of this stuff out of the way. I got a big piece of MDF that's just really flat. That's good for. So give me a second to organize here a little bit. I got too much shit everywhere. I've got this big ass box in my work area for the last sand man I did is huge. It's 3 foot square and it's taking up my entire work area. I need to get it out of here, but we're trying to get the shipping on it's crazy expensive because it's going to Lebanon. We're trying to get the best shipping price, but it's been very expensive to get. So far that client's gotten the heads and the hands, so they look good. So at least that's a positive. Moving all the parts to one side of my bench here. And I've got the Sazabi I did, the Gundam I finished a few months ago. I'm waiting for the base on that to get here so I can take photos. I'm taking it to Wonderfest in a few weeks to show off. So hopefully I get that base in the next week. So that's coming from the UK. Okay. So I just want to get that out of the way, get this out of the way. Get all this out of the way. Because what I want to do is get this piece of MDF, which is really flat. My workbench has so much crap on it, bits of glue and things. It's not a very good flat surface for gluing stuff. So if you want to try to get things lined up, this MDF is good to do that. Okay, there we go. So now I have a flat surface to work on. Yeah, so now what I can do is I can, I'm just going to work on these like 2 at a time. So I can put this down flat, I can clamp it, and we'll get some saran wrap out. Because when I'm all done with this will all get sanded down with a, I'll sand that down with a big sanding block and smooth it out flat. But you can see here, when I put these edges together, you can see that this edge where the supports were, it's not completely perfectly flat. It's got a little warp to it. So that's kind of where you kind of have to deal with that, sometimes. But I think we're gonna go ahead and glue these guys together with some 5-minute epoxy. And then I can put pour some resin in there. So let's do that. Okay, it's gonna be some sanding, some gluing today. So I don't care if this gets stuck to the bottom of the base; it'll get sanded off. But I don't want to do is glue my base to this MDF. So I'm just gonna put that down as a protector. Actually, the better thing would be some wax paper. We don't have any wax paper. Because it would just basically peel off, but this is fine. This will work. Okay, so that. One thing I'm out of is epoxy brushes. So we'll just use that. And we'll use this. And one thing I like to do before I glue anything, I like to kind of do like a clamping. So I want to clamp these together. So I do like a test clamp before I put any glue on, make sure I know where I need to clamp to get the best fit. So my goal is really to kind of close up this gap in the front as best as possible. So I could use that clamp, but it doesn't have a hole. It's not the strongest clamp I have. This is the strongest clamp I have. It's a big boy, but it's got the most clamping power. So what I'm doing is I'm just pushing this down. Because my goal is to get some glue ooze out that will help fill up most of this gap. So that pretty much fills up there. I have a little filling there to do. So I think I get away with 2 clamps. Okay, I can't clamp there. Oh, can I? Okay, I'm careful I didn't clamp there. Okay, I wish I had known one of these big ones, but I don't. Okay, let's do this. This one, I can do this one here. Yes, okay, there we go. That's what I want to do. This is why I do a run through before I put any glue on, just so I know which clamps to use where to get the best results. Now the trick on this is when I clamp this to not create any bowing or as little bowing as possible in these 2 pieces. But I like to clamp these really tight, and then while that glue is drying, I'll work on sanding some other parts. So if I lift this up, okay, that's as flat as that's going to get. That's pretty good. Alright, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put on my work apron because I tend to get glue everywhere. I don't have any clothes that don't have paint or glue on them, unfortunately, because I don't have, like, I should have like a jumpsuit that I work in, but I don't, because I'm lazy. Okay, so for gluing 3D prints, you can use super glue or epoxy. I tend to use epoxy for 2 reasons. Super glue dries way too fast. And epoxy's got some give to it. Super glue is very brittle, so if anything gets just jarred or bumped in the right way, it can break. And we'll use 5-minute epoxy on these. I don't need any more working time. I really wish I had some epoxy brushes, but I'm out. I get a really good coverage. Do I have any shitty brushes I could use? What do we got here? I don't. Okay. So I'll just use a possum stick. Let's see where I'm at. Oh, I should go 1-to-1. And I'll go through a lot of epoxy on these things. Okay. This is 5-minute epoxy. Get some paper towel. hell is lacquer thinner ready? You can clean it up with lacquer thinner or alcohol. I can use lacquer thinner, it's just cheaper. I buy lacquer thinner in 5-gallon jugs from my auto body store. I get 5 gallons for like $50 rather than spending it's like half the price of buying it at by the gallon at Home Depot, because there's different grades of lacquer thinner, so depending on what you're doing. So this is 5-minute epoxy. You do have to work pretty quick with it. It'll start setting up pretty fast. That's why I wish I had some brushes. I may have to go to the hobby store and get some epoxy brushes today. I really want to put it along the edges, so when I clamp these together, I get a nice bead of glue oozing out and I can clean up. And it'll fill the majority of the gap. I'm pretty messy with it. I'm not too careful with it. And this will start setting up here in about 30, 45, in about a minute. This will start to set up. It's a nice bit of glue. And now we're going to come in and we're going to clamp this guy. I'm going to push down on it to make sure it's flat. As flat as I can get it. Okay. So I got this brag's got some lacquer thinner on it. We could put a little bit more glue towards this front part where there's a little bigger gap. But also I need this gap filled so when I pour resin in there, it doesn't come oozing out. So I may go ahead and putty that before I do pouring any resin in. If I had a glue ooze out here and I knew I had a good seal, then I wouldn't worry about doing that. But okay. So this is starting to kick off. It's getting warm. So we're just gonna let that do its thing on the bottom. Again, I don't care if that gets glued on there because it's all gonna get sanded off later when I sand that. Okay, so we'll let that set up for full bond on 5-minute epoxy is an hour. But after about 15-20 minutes, it's to the point where I can keep working. So we're just gonna put that to the side. I'm just gonna leave it on this MDF, which is nice and flat, no bumps on it, like my workbench. Some glue and paint. there's that. All right. So while that's doing that, we can work on sanding some other parts. I'm not really worried about making sure I get all these support marks off. I just want to make sure this is flat for gluing, and the sanding scratches gives the epoxy a really good surface for bonding and gluing. So like a good example where you might see some print lines, like right here, you can hear my fingernail go across it. It's on those flat surfaces. So the nice thing about 3D printing is that wherever there's a lot of texture in the print, you really don't see that. Now if I move this in the light, I can see some voxels. So when that happens, you have to just be careful with like how you paint. You can't do a ton of dry brushing because the voxels will pop out. Those parts go together, and those go together. Yeah, there's some print lines here. I'll just sand those out. Anywhere there's a flat surface, I'll have to sand those out. And he supported it there, looks like. There's some supports, yeah. Yeah, so some of this just has to get sanded. Yeah, so when you start painting, you start doing certain painting techniques, that's when the print artifacts pop out. What's up, Tony? Yeah, for the most part, the print's really good. I was just saying I've got some print lines here and there I'm just now noticing, but I mean, all the details are there. So it's just a matter of fitting everything together. Ideally, I wish I had a smaller piece of MDF because I would actually clamp it to the MDF, keep it flat. I'm going to take this off now. This glue set up now. It's like pretty. It's not 100%, but it's at the point where what they say you can handle it. So it's not going to glue to the MDF. Those go together like that. So if I can get this bottom part of this base kind of fitted and glued today. I'm just gonna work from the bottom up. Yeah, it's when you start to have these bases where it's made up of 4, 5, 6 pieces. Is where you get the alignment. You know, if the alignment's off on one piece, that just gets magnified as you move throughout that piece. So it's really important to get those first 2 pieces fitting as well as you can, so that any imperfections doesn't get magnified later on. And I think I'm doing a third Sandman. Luckily that one the guy will pick up. I don't have to ship it. So my client that did the first Zabi for that just did a little while ago, last couple months ago, he collects a little bit of everything: Star Wars, Star Trek, and one of his builders that he hires a lot is a guy named Mike Salzo, who's a very well-known Star Wars modeler and very talented guy. But he does so much stuff for him that he basically just holds on to the projects as he completes them, and he puts them on a pallet and ships them by a freight. Less chance of damage, because then everything's got to be lifted by a forklift. There's no guys throwing boxes everywhere. So it's really smart. Because he's having so much stuff show up broken from just being handled like crap, that he's like, just keep everything you do for me and we'll throw it on a pallet and mail it all at once, like at the end of the year. And that's what he did. Okay, so this part right here, it's got a pretty good bow in it. So this one, try to get a little more sanding done, try to get this a little bit better fit here. So what happens if I try to clear that? There may be 2. Again, this is just kind of pre-planning. So I think the resin Bond uses is Sunlu resin. I'm not sure which version he uses. I've used their ABS like resin before, and it's good. I like it because I can put a lot of clamping power on this stuff. It's got a little bit of flex to it, and I can clamp the crap out of it. It's amazing, kind of how much I can clamp this stuff. It's got a good amount of flex to it. So I clamp there, clamp there. So I can unclamp these parts. These have set up. Well, we'll have to set a little bit longer before I unclamp it. It's best to let it set up all the way, but I usually don't because I like to keep moving. So like right here, you can see when I clamp here in the middle, oh, maybe you can't see, some of that zoomed in. So like on these 2 parts here, that one side that had the supports on, it's got a little bit of a warp to it. I'll never get sanded perfectly flat. I would remove too much material if I try to do that, which in the long run would affect how the parts on top would fit. So you've got to kind of take that into consideration if you start removing too much material from a part, that's going to affect the parts in the future fitting. It's like that with any resin kit or 3D print. I'm actually giving a presentation at Wonderfest on prepping 3D prints. I only have an hour. I'd really need like 8 hours to do it properly. So like if I clamp there and clamp there, but see, there's this got a warp right here. Can you see that gap? So I'm not gonna. I can get it closed up almost all the way. But the trick is to make sure that these edges are even. So that's why I spend a lot of time like pre-clamping and getting things lined up so I know what I need to do to get the best alignment. Okay. I'm gonna put these two pieces to the side. I can put that on my floor and it's not gonna stick. It's set up enough. I can put that to the side. So I'm trying to think what's the best way to do this. The best order to put these parts together. I put these together and I put these together, then I can clamp them together like this. And then I think I can get those together. Let's see. Okay. Again, I'm going to drill some bigger holes here. So if I want to do a kind of a slush casting of resin, I can. It's actually pretty big already. I'm not sure if those line up. Let's see. Looks like he's got them lined up pretty good. Okay. We'll see. I'm still debating whether I want to fill this with resin. I don't know if I need to. These walls are really thick. I don't think I need to. I think that's just an unnecessary thing. So we'll see. I don't know. Debating where I feel these goes. I don't know if I need to. The only reason I would fill this with resin is to kind of help lock it all together. But the way this base is designed, this piece is going to go on top, and this thing is massive. I mean, this thing is. I don't think I need to do it. I think I'm making more work than I need to. So I'm not gonna worry about filling it with resin. I don't think it's necessary. By the time you get these all parts, man, these would not come apart one bit. So let's not do that. Okay, that's my ADHD brain working in full swing. So I think I can go ahead and glue these two parts together because I don't want to sand too much material off here and affect the fit later on. There's a bow right here, and this is the edge that had all the supports on it, so that's why it's. I'll stream for a few hours. You know, people, if there are people watching and interested in watching, I know Tony's got it playing in the background while he's working. This is his piece. I'll keep it going. As long as people are watching or interested in watching me sand and glue for hours on end. If I have to stop and take a break, it'll be to go get more glue, more epoxy. Okay. I really didn't need to sand that side. That's where some ports are to. Again, it's really just to kind of give the pieces some tooth for the glue. Now I do want to make sure that I glue the right pieces together, so I don't screw up and glue the wrong pieces together, because that would really suck. Okay, I can unplint this. It's been about 30 minutes. So I could glue that, or I could continue on and I could glue these together. Let's see the order I want to go. I think the best thing to do is to build it this way. Just gotta be real careful. These are really, really fragile bones there. So these are two parts of this epoxy a little bit ago. 5-minute glue, you know, like I said, it's about an hour for full bond, but it's to the point where I can actually work on it a little bit more. The most important spot is right here, these two edges, that these are flat. Just making sure that this edge right here is as flat as possible. This is where I wish I should probably go upstairs. I should go downstairs and get my longer. I'll be right back. I can go down to the garage and get my long saving block. Be back 1 second. Which one? Yeah, where's your purse? Huh?
Crates in the bedroom. Just bring the whole bag.
What are you doing? You get in trouble with that. You want to close it? Okay, I'm back. All right, so I got this block here. I use for. I thought about filling the base, Tony, but I think it's unnecessary because bond printing with really thick walls. This is like a 3 or 4 millimeter thick wall, and by the time this all gets filled together, and then you put on all the other parts of the base, I think it's just more work, unnecessary work. Um, you know, so and this is going to be the way these walls. I think there's more than enough support, and it's pretty damn heavy already. So I'm using this long block here to even out this edge. When I start feeling when I feel like I need to fill the walls or the bases, like He-Man was a good example of why I felt like I need to fill the base. The pieces were really big and the walls were thinner, so the bottom had a lot of flex to it. There was a lot of play. I think he used a different resin too. So the bottom had a lot of play in it. And I felt so. I actually filled both. I had to do the base twice because the first one was destroyed in shipping. But the way I filled it the second time was better. It kind of helped lock it together and gave more stability. With these walls being as thick as they are, and the fact it's broken up into all these pieces, there's a lot of support. There's a lot of strength. You should fly out to Winterfest one time, Tony. You'd love it, man. It's awesome. This is a really Wicked. Like I was saying earlier, Wicked puts out some really cool sculpts. Some of the stuff I'm not real keen on, but for the most part, their stuff is really good. Hey Tony, do you mind? I don't know. Would you mind telling people what you paid for the print? I'm curious to know what this print costs. There's a lot of resin here. I'm curious to know what Bond charges for it. If you don't mind sharing that with everyone. They can find out themselves by going to asking Bond what it costs for a print. But yeah, why don't you come out this year? What do you got going on? Okay, let's see how that works. Okay, Looks like that's going to work pretty good there. Okay, so I have to look at the order of this because the way these are keyed, I gotta make sure I glue them in the right order, or else I won't be able to get the parts together. So I can't glue this one and then try to get this in. I'll never. Well, actually, I could. Yeah, I could. I'd like to get this part glued and then swing this one into place and get that glued. So let's do that. Yeah, that's so $8.50 for this print. I think is really, really, really good price. This is, I don't even know how many hours of printing this is. Hundreds of hours of printing, and probably, a couple $100 in resin easily. And then you have to consider how long it takes for them to take them off the printer, take their supports off, wash all the parts, and pack it. That's a really good price, I think, for something like this. One reason I don't do a lot of printing is because I'm expensive. So I do most of the printing I do is for, like I said, for kit manufacturers. So like Filmy's Girls, I can't say the name of what the projects are because they're secret still. But one of the pieces he's gonna have at Wonderfest this year. I did all the master printing. So I printed it, I prepped it, and sent it to the molder and caster. Yeah, I think $8.50 is more than fair for something like this. Okay, so I think I can glue this together. It looks like this is going to fit really well. Again, let's do kind of a pre-clamping. I almost get away with one clamp, but we're going to do two. Yeah, so I'll have some small gaps to fill here and there. Nothing major. The trick is getting it all to blend together and, any texture or anything like that. So these keys have a little bit of play in them, which is really important for stuff like this. When you have all these parts going together, if the keys were like 100% accurate as far as fitting goes, you'd run into problems. They got to have a little bit of play in them. So sometimes I get prints and there's too much play in the key. It's like, oh man, there's a lot of wiggle room, but you need a little bit. So that and glue that. This is me just kind of going through a plan of attack for clamping and gluing. I really don't care what these seams look like here. The most important are out here in all this area. We're going to see it. Okay, so I can glue that part on. Yeah, a week. So, but that's a week across. I think he's got 2 or 3 printers. So if he's doing this all in the Mega AK, which is the biggest printer I have, he's got multiple printers going at the same time to print this guy. So he may be doing some of the smaller parts like the heads and some other stuff on smaller printers. So, but yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue this part on. Again, I like to kind of have I'm just gonna work part by part, getting this bottom part together. Those epoxy is a 1-to-1 mix ratio. I kind of guesstimate, and usually I'm pretty damn close. And I always mix it more than I need because I don't want to make sure I have enough in there to fill the gaps and ooze out and all that fun stuff. And this epoxy ain't cheap. So like this kit right here of epoxy, this is like $30, and I'll probably go through at least one whole kit of that for this piece, if not more. Yeah, I'm not neat about this. I just get it on there, get a nice amount in the key. But most of your strength from these joints comes from all this flat surface area. So it's important to get a nice even coating of epoxy in that flat area. Make sure I put it. I have in the past went to go glue two pieces together and put glue on the wrong spot. They're like the wrong surface. Like, oh shit, that's not where I need it. Yeah, that's fun. And you have to try to clean it off real quick before it starts to dry. But this is starting to warm up already. I can mix up a little bit more. I should have enough here. Okay. So before I clamp, I want to make sure these are lined up as best I can, particularly right there. You know, nice little bit of ooze out, which I like. I'll make sure I clean up in the corner here, particularly, otherwise that's going to prevent the next piece from going in. Like I said, I don't care what the bottom looks like right now. That's all going to get sanded flat later.
So they told her about Print WIP. I thought Walmart updates its listings every 2 minutes and gives personalized recommendations. So Goldie Max found something that was just right for her. And it was happy ever after. Yep, in a cute satisfying beach with no limits.
Yeah, we'll let this sit for 20-30 minutes as I work on some other pieces. Yeah, so the goal is just to get everything lined up as best as you can, and then sanding and putty work refines it later. So Like I said, for the most part, it fits pretty damn good on this thing. There will be some kind of sculpting of texture and stuff, and as I sand this down, the seam, that texture that's in the print will get destroyed. So I'll have to go back there and kind of sculpt some of that in. So that's something you have to take into consideration when you're working on these prints. Is that it's like when you're working on a a model tanker plane, you got two halves together. When you go to clean that seam off, you destroy all the panel lines. You have to go back and reintroduce all the panel lines. It's the same process here. You have to go back through and resculpt all the texture that you've obliterated from sanding. So. So I'm going to leave that on that saran wrap. Peel it off here a little bit. So while that's drying, you can work on that part. That's going to go there. This goes there. This goes here. I could probably glue those together. I think I could. Because that's going to kick in there. Actually, I don't want to do that. So I think it's too far of a distance. I have a good chance of kicking that up. I keep the little thing of epoxy close by, so I can kind of see where it is as far as curing. That's set up pretty good already. I think he's printing at 50 microns. I can only, if you're printing anything lower, it would take a month to print this thing. I've done a few prints at like 30 microns, and also kind of depends on your printer's resolution. So like actually 50 microns sometimes isn't the best resolution depending on the XY resolution of your screen. Sometimes you want to print at 52 microns or 53, some like weird odd number. And that has to do with the anti-aliasing and the voxels. So sometimes depending on the printer and the XY resolution, you can actually get a better printing at like a 52 or 53 microns. I think. Hold on, I'm having a brain fart. I think the Mega AK, the ideal resolution is like 43 microns, to be honest, if I remember correctly. It has to do with the and also the arcane angle, how you print, which angle you print at, will determine layer lines and all. There's all sorts of math and shit that goes into it. So if you're still there, Tony, I don't know if you saw the very beginning of my live. I was talking about the switch outs. He's got one switch out in that left hand, the left arm. So I was trying to kind of explain to you. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to Bon, and I'm going to have him print me another, and I'll pay for it. I'm not sure what he'll charge me. I'm going to have him print me another left shoulder, because I think the switch out works better if I can have the switch out at the shoulder joint than right here, because there's not a lot of meat here for a magnet or a pin. I can put a 1/2-inch magnet here and a 1/2-inch magnet there, and that'll give me a really good strong contact point, because this long drill thing, it's heavy, and I think the physics of it needs to I just need to have the switch out at the shoulder joint rather than at the elbow. I gotta put these fire things aside. These are to get, I don't want to break these little rings. Crazy fragile. So yeah, anyway, so I want to get that out of the way. Because if I glued this on, and any seam that you see here, Tony, will be covered up by the shoulder pad. So I'm going to reach out to him, have him send me another left shoulder. I think I just have a better, I think the switch out would work better that way. Because it's a lot of weight to put on, a lot of stress. I want to be able to, I want to be able to glue this on. I want this to be a piece. Get a nice positive glue joint there, and that way, and it's just the physics of it. That's a lot of torque and pressure on that elbow joint when there's not a lot of room to put a magnet. So anyway, that's my thought process on that. That's the only switch out. So you'd have an arm like this with the shoulder on, and then the screw thing with the shoulder on. So I'll send him a message today, unless I can't send him a message right now because I'm broadcasting. But yeah, I think the XY resolution on the XY resolution on the Mega AK is 43. Oh, so what that happens is I take that back. It's been a while since I printed. So that will determine the angle you print at. So if it's 43 microns, you want to print at a 43-degree angle. I think you have to do there's an arcane formula. Oh no, I'm sorry. Rewind. So if the Mega AK is at 43 microns, the XY resolution, and you want to print at a 45-degree angle, you would then you would set your layer height to 43 microns. Does that make sense? So if you want to print at a 45, which is ideal for support and everything, you would have to change your resolution to 43. That just would help you reduce layer lines and things like that. Sometimes you can't do that because of the size of the piece. You just gotta stand it up on end or whatever for it to work, you know? Okay, so the next piece I want to glue on is going to be this piece. Swing this in. Clamp that in. Clamp it this way. Clamp it that way. Clamps full line everywhere. Okay, that's gonna line it. So like on this part in particular, this one has like of all the prints that part of, you can hear that. You know, you can hear the layer lines, and that could have just been the angle he printed this at. But flat surfaces, that's where you can have the most kind of print lines. And I can see some of the voxels in the stonework here. I'm not seeing that on the other parts. So it could just be the angle that you print that part at. This has a little bit of it, but not bad. But I'm not complaining. His prints are really good. They still take work. It's like, yeah, but man, I don't know what he printed this. Like, I didn't ask him what thing is. These walls are thick, man. It's like that's like 5 or 6 millimeters. That's crazy. It's like this is more sturdy than anything you'd get from like Sideshow. I think it's like everyone thinks polystone is the best thing. Polystone is brittle. It's got no flex to it, so if it gets jarred or bumped, it breaks. Um, Resin is the best thing. A good high quality resin will have flex to it. So if it gets bumped or in shipping, if it gets jarred, it's not going to break. It's going to flex a little bit. But yeah, so it's like everyone thinks if something's heavy, it's high quality. A lot of times the exact opposite because they put fillers in it. Sometimes these factories in China they'll put fiberglass as a filler in their resin to reduce the cost. Or they'll put something else in it as a filler. Ugh, it's just not good. Okay. So the goal is to get this as flat as possible down here. After I glue this all together, there's gonna be 6 joints. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, 12 joints, and they're not gonna be perfectly flat. We'll sand it. If I have to do a little Bondo work, I will, but I don't think I will. I think I'll be able to sand it pretty flat. That saves a lot of time. Not having to fill the holes on the bottom and do Bondo work, that's half a day to a day's worth of work right there. So I'm glad he did. I'm glad he didn't put any holes in the bottom. Okay, so there's a little bit of glue here in this corner and get this out. But trying to glue all these pieces together with super glue, I wouldn't have time to align it and get the best fit. If you ever watch like any of the Wicked videos, everyone's doing super glue. Maybe if you're not shipping something, it's fine. But you gotta have these joints have gotta have a little bit of give to them, because it gets bumped just right, then super glue is really brittle. Glue joint will break. By the time I'm done gluing all this stuff together, if anything, the glue joint wouldn't break, the resin wouldn't break, because the glue joint is going to be really, really strong. Okay, I'm just kind of getting a clamping thing in here. To replace that one. No. I need to get a couple more of these. Got medium-sized clamps. Every year I go and buy a few more of these, and I can never seem to have enough clamps. Usually go buy them. They go on sale. Go buy a few because they're not cheap. The big guys are like $30 a piece or something like that. I bought some from Harbor Freight, but they suck. They have no holding power whatsoever. Ooh, that lines up pretty good. I wish I could put a clamp right there. That's kind of where the clamp is at. That joint right, that spot. It's really right here. I'd like to put a clamp right there, but I don't have another one that's big enough.
Somebody wants some more pictures.
It'll help. It'll help pay for your other one you just bought.
Right.
I didn't leave him down. You left him down there. Okay, so I'm going to clamp like that. I'm going to get one more clamp right here. So I'm going to let this set up a little bit longer. These two here. Another 10 minutes or so. Yeah, what was it say? So this work handle time. Sets in 5, handle 10. Full set in an hour. So, but yeah, we'll get another clamp here. Let's close up that gap a little bit. So that's kind of like the clamping plan for those parts. It's got a little play, but we'll. All right, so while that's drying, continue drying. We'll go ahead and work on cleaning up some of these other parts, just some sanding. We'll also do that while we wait. Oh, hold on. I don't want to do that. Oh, please. Okay, yes, it's flat there. Yeah, this is. I'm thinking of all the 3D prints I've worked on so far. This may be the most impressive. He-Man was cool, but this thing is just really freaking unreal. I mean, some of these parts, like, I don't have to do any cleanup. They just... A little bit of gap filling here and there. I do that. Crap. Sorry. I'm kind of working off to the side here, off camera. I think the best thing to do is to glue that on, then glue this on. You kind of look at the color reference and see how I'm going to paint the base to see how much this is going to glue together. Do I glue these parts on? I think I do. It's all stonework, I think. This is all pretty much stonework. Yeah, if I get the base to get together today, that's a good day. That'd be really awesome. So yeah, you do the initial cleanup, then you throw a primer on, and then primer shows you all the areas that you missed. You're like, okay, I got a lot more cleanup to do. Pretty damn good. I've got two joints I gotta glue there. I need a good amount of epoxy for that. So the thing about working with epoxy is that not only is it a chemical reaction, but it's a thermal reaction too. As it heats up, it cures faster. So if you mix up a big batch, you gotta work really quick. Especially with 5-minute epoxy.
Here's a question. Have you ever been prescribed a medication? Most likely, yes. But what about this question? Did you understand how it worked? The way your medication works in your body shouldn't be a mystery. Learn how VIVFight, F-Gartigimod, how it works by visiting VIVFight.com/MOA. That's VIVIGAIT.com/MOA. Brought to you by my channel.
So it's a decent amount of epoxy here. We have to move quick. Are you talking to me? No, I'm good, thank you. Ah, messy, messy, messy. Yeah, that's really messy, but we're just gonna get in there and we'll clean it up. Make sure that edge is lined up before I clean up anything else. It's pretty good. Alrighty. Getting there. No, I don't think it'll be that much. You're working? Why are you working? You gotta pay for this. That's why you're working. I don't think I'll pay for it. I don't think it'll be that much. I'll reach out to him today. I could imagine it'd be more than like 15 or 20 bucks, but I could be wrong. I'll ask him. If I had the file, I could print it myself, but I don't have the file. Maybe I'll just ask him to send me the file. Maybe he'll do that. I'll ask him. I can print it here. It wouldn't cost me anything. Okay, so let that dry. Yeah, if I get this all done today, if I get this part glued today and the bottom sanded flat, and then I can, man, that'd be great if I get the base built up today. I mean, this thing is just massive. It's just crazy how big this is. So on this part, he put all the supports on this side, which is good because that's the back side. So I'll have to see how much sanding or just putty work I do to get really support marks. I can see them on the skeletons here. Those aren't really, probably won't be able to see those until I get primer on it, to be honest. I can see some here, back here. Yeah, so there's gonna be quite a bit of cleanup on some of these parts just because they're just so damn big. I think it's gonna take me a couple weeks to get this guy done. Just because he's so damn big, and I think the building and prep is gonna take me the rest of this week, and hopefully I can paint him within a week or so. Sanding stuff. I moved it. Is what one print. So yeah, so this is one piece. Isn't that crazy? He printed. I mean, this is how it came, cut from Wicked. But I mean, and it's super thick. I mean, the walls are. I mean, this thing weighs. This thing probably weighs 2 pounds. I mean, I'll go weigh it. I have my scale out to get the Wilbur ready for shipping. Oh no, 5 pounds. This piece by itself weighs 4 3/4 pounds, 4.7 pounds. Isn't that crazy? Insane. This piece weighs 3.5 pounds. So that's almost 8 pounds of resin for those two parts. Oh, yeah. These guys have. Yeah, he printed this was really thick. This is, like I said, like it was probably one of the better prints I've seen because the walls are really nice and thick. So lots, really, really sturdy. While those cure, I'm going to work on sanding some of these other areas. cleaning up supports and stuff. This is one of the legs. Where's the So these legs, I'd really like to put a pin in. I might So one thing I would do sometimes is I won't fill this whole foot with resin because that'd be crazy. What I'll do is I'll like plug these holes and I'll flip it upside down and I'll fill resin about that high. And then I'll do the same thing on this part. I'll plug these holes and this I just might fill solid because I want to put, again, since I have to ship this thing. So a lot of this has to do with shipping. You know, if this was being picked up by like one of my local clients, some of the stuff I probably wouldn't go through, but since it has to ship, you know, you want it sturdy. So like this part, I might just fill with resin so I can put a pin here and put a pin there. I could even magnetize it for shipping purposes just so it comes apart. But I would like to make it one piece, ideally. So that's kind of my thought process. But before I do that, I have to get him up on the base and get him kind of lined up so I can make sure everything's lining up. I mean, so even though like when you put stuff like this together, it looks like it fits really good, you have to put it on the base because sometimes that will tweak it a little bit and they'll determine, okay, well, I need a little wiggle room here, and I'll show you where maybe a gap is or something you gotta fix. So sometimes it's not as easy as, oh, I'll just magnetize it or pin it and glue it all together. Well, then it may not fit on the base. So you gotta have it up on the base and see how everything lines up. So like this, where the support marks are, I'm not worried about getting rid of them. I just want to smooth it out so they don't cause interference with this joint. So I just sanded enough to get rid of the knot fits. But there's a tiny little hairline gap there that I don't like, so I'd go in and fill that. So that's why I would like to glue this together so I can fill the gaps. Like on Bishop, I ended up filling him up with resin up to the waist. He was solid all the way up to the waist. So I knew I was shipping him, I added pins from the waist all the way down to the feet. So do I had some. This is solid. This is 5/16 inch brass rod. That's really crazy big. But I could add a nice big pin there. And now, man, that would make that really, really solid. That's probably overkill. But what you can do, look at this. Maybe a possibility. You cut this and make this really, really solid. Cut that, and then I'll have And then I don't want to fill the whole foot with resin. That make it really unnecessarily heavy. I'm just thinking out loud here. I could probably glue these together. That fits really, really good. There's no gap there. And then what I could do is I could actually, haha, is that a brain fart? A great idea. I could glue these together. I could pour casting resin in there. I could hold it like this, and then I can make that knee joint solid. That's actually a really good idea. Look at that. Sometimes I'm smart. Not too often, but sometimes. But if I do that, I got to make sure that resin can get where it's got to go. Again, it'll be a little more masking in the end, but I think, again, I'd rather have more masking and not have to try to. The worst thing is having everything painted and go to glue something and glue gets on all your paint. That's the worst because it eats the paint and you're screwed. Okay, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again. Did my live stop and come back? It says 11 minutes. If you have, you need. Oh, how much was shipping for this guy? He was heavy. So these clamps are DeWalt clamps. They have a specific name, but I don't know what they're called. But they're the best. Like I said earlier, I said I bought some from Harbor Freight, but they suck. They have no clamping power. But these are the bomb. The bottom ain't pretty, but we'll clean it up. Probably should clamp it there. Anyway. Where's my? There it is. I'd have to guess that this base alone probably weighs 10 or 11 pounds. I don't know how much these weigh, but those two pieces alone down there weigh 8 pounds. So I wonder if the live resets after 2 hours, because it said I only been live for 15 minutes. And I've been live for several hours. Yeah, at least 2 hours I've been live. So those 2 edges are a little off, but I think it's gonna be okay because so far all the areas that matter are lined up. It's outside edges. Yeah, challenge with all these is that it's gonna have a little bow on the bottom, but we'll sand it as smooth as I can when it comes time. I'm doing this stuff. I get there's stuff everywhere and I can't see what I need to see. So what is clamped together right now is 2/3 of the bottom part of the base. This comes into here. This comes into there, and it's got 2 more layers that go on top. it's a big boy. I mean, if you're gonna go big or go big or go home, right? That's the way I look at it. If you're gonna do it right. Yeah, I've got another one coming with a small base. One of my local clients out of Houston. He drives up, picks up a few things, drops off a few things. finally getting over a cough I've had for the past 6 weeks. I get every year I get a cough around this time of year, so it's got to be allergies or something. But I get a cough and it lasts no less than a month. So where cleanup slows net really slows down is where you're standing in these little areas and you're trying to get all the little support marks out and you're trying not to destroy the detail. I would love to like visit the Onage factory and watch them like clean up their prints because they probably have all the really cool freaking tools to do it with all the little motorized sanders and everything, which I don't have. I mean, even this is the bottom of the foot, we're gonna clean it up as best we can. Sometimes you have, I always say you have to kind of weigh like, okay, how much time is it taking? How much is it costing your client? Is it worth cleaning up an area you're never going to see? So, Are you still there, Tony? Have you opened up your other pieces? Did you open up your saber tooth and other stuff yet? So I use I use a fine sanding sponge to kind of do the initial on these round, parts, and then I go through with the super fine. So the fine sanding sponge is about 320, 400, and then I use a super fine, which is about 6. They give you a range of grit. It's like a 600 grit sandpaper, and then the primer does a good job of covering up those sanding scratches. I could probably get away with the fine sanding sponge by itself, but I like to go back and so when you look at 3D prints, you look at where the supports are and try to determine how they had it oriented on the printer, and they'll tell you where to look for support marks. Because sometimes it's not obvious where they would be. Like the little itty bitty supports right here. They'll just flake right off. There's no cleanup on them. Super small supports there. It's like I'm sure there's more here. I'm just not seeing them right now. Primer will make them pop out. This is the foot that's really, really tight in the base. So I'll probably have to go through and Dremel the base out a little bit, even though I kind of got it just from messing with it earlier. I'm going to sand off some of this. Where I see it rubbing, I'm going to sand it a little bit. Okay, this is probably dry enough. I can go back to this. This is what I do in this initial kind of stages. I bounce back and forth between gluing and cleaning up stuff. So okay, so this one I've got to glue these together first and then put it in. because I can't glue that and slide this in, and vice versa. That's the way the keys are. So this has got to be glued first, like so. So that's what we'll do. I'm only have one clamp. That's not good. I may have to go buy another clamp. One of these big dogs. Actually, maybe just enough. I can do it. Okay, that'll work. Let's get that glued together. song. Can't turn it up though because YouTube will flag it. So I'm like at heart, I'm a metalhead. I love heavy metal, progressive metal, Rush, Dream Theater, Iron Maiden, all those like Metallica, Megadeth. But I've discovered, I guess I don't know what the genre's called. Electronic techno. I don't know. It's like 80s. Think of, you know, the band Gunship. Think of Stranger Things intro music. And I discovered it about a year ago, and I've just like fallen in love with this genre of music. And there's a band, The Midnight, that I just really, really like. It's like the exact opposite of heavy metal, but it's got a good vibe. You guys got a great voice, really good lyrics. And a lot of people like James Taylor is one of my favorite artists. Like, yeah, you like Metallica and James Taylor? I was like, yeah, who wouldn't like James Taylor? He's like the best American folk artist ever. Okay, so with that set up, I think I'm gonna go to the store and get one more of these big clamps to glue it there. So we'll see. I've been broadcasting since like 9 o'clock, I think. So I didn't print this. This is from Von Norden. This is what was the other question? So the printers I use a Frozen Mega AK. I have a Frozen Mighty 4K and a Saturn 2. The Saturn 2 I don't use a lot. The Frozens have been the best printers I have personally used. I've had like little to no issues with them. The Saturn is kind of hit or miss for me. So everyone's like, "Oh, which printer should I get?" It's like, I tell you what I like. I like the Frozen printers. They work for me. I've owned Anycubic printers. Those were a nightmare to deal with. The Mono X's, when those were out, I had two of them, and they both worked for about 2 weeks, and then I had a lot of issues, and I had to tinker with them, and finally they started working again. The Frozen, man, I plugged them in and started printing. So Mega AK and Mighty 4K. Now there's updated versions of the Mighty 4K. There's a Mighty AK. There's a, you know, but I can't justify buying any more printers right now because I'm not printing a ton. And the resin I like to use is Frozen's Aqua 4K. I haven't tried AK resin. I'm not printing super tiny little jewelry stuff like that. So, but I have tried some. I do like the Soraya Tech Fast. That's worked well for me in the past. But the Frozen Aqua 4K is kind of like what I've been using mostly, and it works really well. I think I might glue this on. I think I just might. I'm gonna be crazy and do it. But if I do that, if I glue that on, I'd really like to put a pin in it. There's a little gap there I can fill.
Everything is better in leather. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley, where bold meets durable. And wait a minute. Who's been paying attention? The new leather collection at Ashley is built for the durability you need for the whole family. Yes, pets too. Luxury is meant to be livable. Check the sales starting at $499.99 and $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
Okay, anyway. I'm getting ahead of myself if I do that. I always pre-planning ahead. There's only little supports sticking out. I like to get those out of the way. I just pull them out or push them into the print. I don't want to create any interference between the joint. So I don't care that they're there. I just want them interfering with that glue joint. Where's the screwy thing? Here's the screwy thing. Half the time, the challenge is finding a good spot to clamp without causing any damage. So I'm going to glue this on eventually. I wish I kind of had that other shoulder here. I can get those glued and magnetized today. So I just kind of do a pre-clamping and find out, okay, where should I clamp this? If you're going to do any clamping. It's such a weird spot of it, just something holding together. Because she's a sad basset hound. She's stuck in her closet. Oh, is she in the playroom maybe? The door? Atlas stuff. Oh, see, Tony. Oh, Diablo, man, we haven't played Diablo in ever, man. We need to get on and play it. I need to play. I need you to get online with me, Tony, and like level me up like crazy. Yeah, we haven't played. I haven't played in forever. It's just part of the problem is the PS4 is in my son's room, and he's always playing his games. He's kind of it's on permanent loan to him, I guess. I think the solution is I just need to buy my own. To get myself a PS5 at my work area. I'm sure my wife would love that. Yeah, I'm just gonna broadcast for a little bit longer. I've been going on for a while now. I kind of want to start over. I've been playing with the oh my gosh, what's my character? I forget what I have even. I think a lot of this clean, but I'm gonna have to wait till I get a layer of primer on stuff because bond support settings are really good. They're actually hard to see where they are on the bare resin, which is a good thing. His depth is set really low, which is nice. I think it's like he sets his depth like at 0.3 or 0.2 on all his support settings, so it doesn't gouge into the print. Caribbean. He says Caribbean. It's like Caribbean. Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily need a PS5. A PS4 would be perfect. I have a PS3 at my work area that I still play all the time because I love Bioshock is my favorite game I've ever played. I love the Bioshock games. I'm sure I can play those on PS4 and PS5, but if I just get a used PS4 up here, that'd be perfect. Don't necessarily need a PS5. And my work area is just so dusty and everything anyway, I wouldn't want to put like a brand new gaming system up here. Actually, surprised my PS3 still works considering how dusty it is in here. All the sanding and shit I do. I mean, I think the cleanup on that, for the most part, is done. That's pretty good. Okay, I think I may have to take a break and go get another one of these big lamps because I mean, I need one to put this next part on. This is yeah, that's gonna need some serious clamping power because I figure there'd be some discrepancies in these two pieces here. So I'm gonna clamp here. Pretty good warp right there. I think I can close it up with some clamping. Yeah. Like that. That aligns pretty good, pretty good. It's a little off on this end, which is not the end of the world. How do I just do this right here in the middle? What's that do? I don't have to go spend $40 on a clamp, I won't. But I think I might be advisable. I really do what I got. That'd be nice. So I have like one little edge here that's not quite lining up. It's right there. If that's all that doesn't line up out of all this, that's pretty damn good, considering there's 6 parts here. A little misalignment there. Yeah, so it's off by like 1/64 of an inch right there. It's very, very small. So it's pretty good. Little sanding, little putty work. More in business. And the biggest gap is right there in the middle, so which is no big deal. We'll fill it in with some resin, light curing resin. No problem. So I think I can glue this together, and we'll sand this down. Okay, let's do that. So I got these 3 clamps. One like that. I can technically do a clamp here. Oh, that's smaller. Okay. Let's see. I think that's my clamping strategy right there. Oh, so for some reason, just that one edge doesn't line up as well as everything else. That's no big deal. Probably because just as you know, it's resin. It flexes and shrinks and stuff as it prints and cures. Well, how much do you want to spend on a printer? So I like Dario. If you said the frozen printers have been what I used. They're been the best ones I've used so far. So it depends on what kind of how much you want to spend on a printer. How big are you going to print? I mean, technically, you could technically print this the apocalypse on like a mighty 4K if you cut everything into little tiny pieces and put it all together. That'd be an absolute fucking nightmare, but you could technically do it. So you got to decide, okay, what am I printing? How big am I printing? How much do I want to spend? I'll call him back later. My mom. I'll call her back in a minute. I'm going to turn off here. I'm going to clamp these last few parts up to glue. and they'll sign off broadcast wise because it's going to be just more sanding and gluing today. So my goal for the day is to kind of get all this epoxy, get the bottom sand smooth, and then possibly get the next two pieces clamped on top and get that all solid one piece. And then I'll work on cleaning up. I can clean up the supports and stuff as it's once that's all together. It'll be a big piece to handle, but this will be all solid then. So that's kind of my goal for the day. Is kind of get the base for the most part together and the basic cleanup done. That's a very productive day on something this big. So if you're looking at like a 10-inch, I would look at the I would look personally. I would look at the Mighty AK. Um, they just came out the Revo. I'm not sure what the price on that is. This is frozen. I think that's their. Also, I've heard really good things about the. If you follow a guy on YouTube, Ground Affected Brett, he uses the GK uniformation, whatever it's called, and that's about a $900 printer, and he raves about it. I would actually really like to get one of those if I could justify buying one. If I was like printing a lot for other people, I'd get one because it's got a built-in heater, built-in filtration. The vat doesn't screw in it. It's like really they've actually figured out a lot of fixed a lot of issues like the other printers have. So look at Ground Affected on YouTube. Brett, he's out of the UK. He does a lot of great work. His painting style is more comic style. So a lot of really vibrant colors, a lot of saturation. I really like his work. And he typically does smaller scale. He's not doing quarter scale stuff. He's usually doing the 6 scale. Oh, this is way too much epoxy. I wasted a bunch. Let's see. I hate wasting epoxy. It's expensive, but. Nice. Alexa, volume up. I need a bigger workbench so I can spin this mixture around. Clamps on. That kicked off quickly. Wow. That batch of epoxy kicked off quick. I might have had too much resin mixed in or too much hardener. Gotta clean out some epoxy in the corners here's kicked off really quick, and I wasn't able to clean it out. It's thinner, so. So I should be able to get this one done before the Winterfest. I believe on the 29th. Yeah, I can get this. That'd be cool to take this to Winterfest. Show off. I'm taking the Punisher and this is Adi. And I'm taking my Stella that I did of Mark Havocan Stella. He wants to put that on the table because he's got a few copies to sell. Okay. So the only worst part of the alignment on this whole piece, surprisingly, is this little edge right here. Everything else lined up really damn good. All right. Let this set up for 30-45 minutes. And then we're in good shape on that, I think. Yeah, hopefully I can. Yeah, Ground Effect's good, man. He does really good work. I've actually learned a lot from him. I've implemented some of his skin tone techniques, and they've worked out really well. I just like his style. I just like his really kind of vibrant colors and stuff. But his style works really good for smaller scale stuff. It doesn't translate as well to big scale stuff because it's really punchy. But the smaller the scale is, the more contrast you got to build into your pieces because you kind of have to trick the eye a little bit. But I wouldn't mind trying some of his, like the turtles he's working on right now are freaking amazing. I want to. There's so many things I would love to print and paint for myself. I just don't because if I'm painting for myself, that means I'm not earning an income. So I don't do it for myself. That's why I like it when clients send me stuff that I would love to paint. Because again, I just want the experience of doing it. I don't necessarily want to have it on my shelf. But there's some really killer Ninja Turtle files that he's working on. Like, oh man, those would be so cool to print and paint. So if I see something I would enjoy painting, I usually send out to my clients, hey, you guys interested in this? Having me do it? And sometimes they bite and sometimes they don't. I've got a couple Batmans in my stash that the kits were really inexpensive, and I reached out to a couple clients and they bought them, so I got two Batmans that I wanted to paint. Alright, so this is looking pretty good. I guess I'm going to let this set up for 30-45 minutes, and I can take this all off, and I can go outside and sand the bottom and hopefully get that pretty smooth today. And once that's smooth, I can put the next part on, get that clamped on, and I'm just going to build it up. Because once the base is solid, I can really work on getting him aligned and solid. So what time is it? That's 12 o'clock. So I've been on for a little over 3 hours. I think we'll sign off, guys. But so thanks for hanging out. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye. Oh, so Tony, look up Ground Affected in the UK. I think I'll send you the link. I think the files are from a company called. I'll look them up. I'll send them to you. They're really cool. They're like little dioramas, so like they're on rooftops. I'll send you the link. But I'll find them for you. So we'll catch you guys later. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.